Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Our Stacey Comer chatted with country music artist Brett Kissel regarding his drive-in concert in Edmonton.
We're once again happy to be joined by Brett Kissel today. Brett, I don't even know what to say. I was hoping that I was going to talk to you and say, hey, some of your fans have a chance to get tickets to your newly announced drive-in shows now, but they just sold out so quickly. Tell me about everything that happened this morning.
Well, we're so thankful and so impressed. I mean, obviously the appetite for live country music is very, very strong. And so to be able to sell out 6 shows, 3 per day on Saturday and Sunday is extraordinary to me. And I'm so happy that we get to do it, honestly, for such a great cause and raise money for the food banks here in Alberta.
How did this all come together, Brett? Was it a lot of kind of behind the scenes negotiating, or did it just kind of come to you one day, you made some calls and really you could just kind of make it happen?
You know, it was a little bit of both, but it started with a text that I got from a very good friend of mine, Terry Bandera, out in Sherwood Park, and he texted me a photo of an artist in, I think it was Latvia or Lithuania, and he said, look at this, they're doing live music at a drive-in concert in Europe. You should think about doing something like this. So I took that picture and I texted it to management and record labels, and then I feel like I was on 100 different conference calls with not only my team, but Alberta Health Services and Health Canada, the Premier of Alberta, Dr. Hinshaw, and we figured out a way to make this happen. We figured out a way to make this extremely safe for everybody who attends. But our goal was to keep everybody safe, but also raise spirits for Albertans and for country music fans that I see on Twitter. A lot of people are driving up from Saskatchewan. A lot of people are driving up from BC. This is really, really cool.
So how does it work with the food bank, Brett? Is it a portion of the proceeds, or are you asking people to bring donations to the show, or how does that part work?
We're not allowed to accept donations from like physical donations of canned food or bread or anything like that people would usually bring pre-COVID-19. We can't have that kind of spread. But what we wanted to do, and thanks to our partner at Safeway Canada, 100% of the proceeds, not just some of the proceeds, 100% go straight to the food banks in Alberta. We're also going to launch something next week once we sort out the details with our network partners that Safeway and Sobeys, their parent company, really want, so other Canadians can get involved and they can text donations to their network and their cell phone provider. And then Safeway is going to match up to $25,000 extra for the food banks across Canada. That way it's a truly national charitable focus, and that makes us very, very excited.
It must feel good, Brett, to first of all to see your fans supporting this, and also to be able to get out and perform. I mean, it's been a long haul for a lot of people, and especially artists, with really at this point not a good end in sight as to how, you know, real concerts are going to return.
Yeah, you know, to be honest, it's definitely sad to look at an empty calendar, because us as artists, we love going out and playing. Of course, that's the selfish side. But on the giving side, we know that we offer an incredible service to people who cannot wait for the weekend. People who work so hard to make money that they're going to save it and they're going to go out to the Big Valley Jamboree, or they're going to save it for a Rick Snorton good time at the Chuck Wagons in Lloyd. You know what? For one of those great weekends. Well, they're all gone now. And so I'm so happy that we were able to figure out a way to bring live music back in such a positive way. I don't believe this is something that's going to happen for years. I believe it's the 2020 model to experience live music. So that's why I'm so excited that people are treating this as a once in a lifetime, because come 2021, I think we're going to be back and better than ever.
Now, given the response that you've had just to this event, Brett, is there a possibility, or is it too early to say yet, if this might be something where you'd go and do other drive-in events at other areas around the country, again, as safely as possibly you can?
You know what? It's a great question. Both me and my team are getting calls like crazy over the last couple of days since we announced, and right now. So yes, there's a lot of cities that are very interested. We just need to figure out, you know, obviously the demand and the appetite, which we know here in Alberta is very strong. But we had a very close working relationship with the Premier of Alberta and Dr. Hinshaw. So if we're to do something like this in Saskatchewan, it's going to be very important that we speak to Scott Moe's government. If we do something like this in Ontario, we need to speak with Premier Ford's government to make sure that, you know, they're willing to let us come in and elevate spirits and do it in the safest way we possibly can. If we can't do it safely, we won't do it at all. But it's too early to tell. I just know there's a lot of hoops. I had to jump through 1,000 hoops just to make this happen in Alberta. We're going to see if we can jump through 1,000 hoops in every other province.
Now, during this global pandemic, Brett, I know you've been doing a lot of different things online, Instagram concerts, that sort of thing. Have you had quite a good response from your fan base in regards to even just doing that? Because there are a lot of people who do, in fact, either have to work from home or be quarantined and really with not a lot of options to do.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great creative outlet for me to get a chance to get on Instagram or Facebook and play some of my favorite songs and still connect with people. It's very awkward to end a song and have nobody clap for me. Like, I know that sounds conceited and very anti-Canadian, so forgive me. But I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, like, what's it going to be like at this drive-in concert? And then we discovered, okay, well, it's actually pretty easy. We're just going to ask everybody to honk their horns. And when they do, I think it'll be pretty cool to have that type of adulation.
Well, Brett, this is really awesome. Congratulations again for selling out just, as quickly as you did, selling out the show. It's just amazing to see the support, and I think people need this at a time like this. So thank you, first of all, for doing this, and congratulations. And I'm sure that, it's going to be a tough year, but like you always say, tough times don't last and tough people do. So let's see where we can go with this.
You're absolutely right. Well, thank you very much for this. And for anybody out in the border city that did get tickets, I hope that they have an amazing time.
All right. Thank you, Brett. And you have a great day.
Okay. You too. See ya.
So I'm joined here with Mansoor Azim, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Eid Together that happened yesterday. Just tell me a little bit about the event.
Eid is the one of the holiest festivals that in Islamic calendar that we celebrate. There are two festivals, both are called Eid, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Azha. Yesterday it was like Christmas for the Muslims. It was the holiest festival in Islam for all the Muslims. So traditionally, you have probably seen before, Primetime Local News has covered our stories in the past as well, where traditionally we have large gatherings at the mosque. Every single member of the community comes to the mosque and they pray at the mosque, and then traditionally you have probably seen they hug each other 3 times. That's a traditional way to celebrate and meet each other, and it happens only on Eid. But this time it was a very non-traditional Eid, as I have seen in the past as well. We are not the only one. Our festival is not the only one that was affected by COVID-19. Recently, I saw the Easter festival being celebrated virtually as well. I saw the Passover festival being celebrated virtually as well. Similarly, over whole Ramadan was also the holiest month in Islamic calendar. That was also celebrated. The sermons was given online as well. So a lot of changes this year. I have never celebrated this Eid, any Eid like this as we celebrated yesterday. But we had to do something. So a lot of our efforts shifted to online services. So we made it a virtual kind of Eid program with the name of Eid Together. And there were some funny messages, fun programs that we did, some trivia, some quiz to join, so the members can join with the community again. And they wished each other online, and it was a fun, good program.
And how did this program get organized? So when you guys realized that you wouldn't be able to get together and join all together in the mosque, how did it come to be that you were going to do this online version?
We were in hope that maybe with everything opening again, maybe the mosque would be open as well, but it was not included in the phases on both sides. So we had to come up with some idea, with something, so that families are not bored. They had to make this a special day, that this is the day that we celebrate throughout. We have been looking forward to this day for a whole year. So we came up with this idea that the kids, they want to do something. They have been in homes for a long time, and they have nothing to do at home. Sometimes they are bored. How much a person can spend at home. But so we came up with this idea to have some trivia games, to have some quiz games, so that the whole family can participate. They will also have the prizes as well. So the 3 best families or the members who have won, we will give them prizes as well. So this was a sort of game, a sort of, made their day.
And you guys also did all of Ramadan online virtually as well. How did that go?
As I told you, it was very different for me. As a missionary, as an imam, I have to, I am used to seeing people in the mosque gathering. We used to have large gathering at the mosque every night throughout Ramadan. And I know that Primetime Local News has covered these stories before as well. Some of the community members would also know that in Ramadan, people do gather at the mosque. But doing everything online, it was completely different for us, but it went well. I have heard stories, some positive stories as well. There were some members who say that because of their job timing, they were not able to attend the sermons, but now that everything is online, it is much more easier for them to listen to the sermon whenever they want, from the comfort of their homes as well as the comfort of their timings is.
And looking forward, you said that religious organizations weren't included in any of the phases yet. Do you know if possibly you guys will be able to have people coming into the mosques, when that will be, or are you still kind of waiting to hear from Saskatchewan on that?
I think the mosque on Saskatchewan side is or have been put on phase 5, I think. That's when the limitation of the gatherings will be lifted. So I think it's still a long time, but whenever the health authorities will be, they consider it safe that the mosques and the churches and the religious worship places should open, we will follow the guidelines.
Perfect. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me, and have a good day.
Thank you very much.
This week in retrospect. Back in 1995, healthcare workers in Vermilion took to the picket line in hopes of a wage increase.
This was the scene in Vermilion today as workers took to the picket lines. LPNs, nurses' aides, and personal care aides all rallied together to present a united front. Workers hit the pavement with a strong, positive attitude, determined to fight for what they believe is fair.
Like we took a cut 5 years ago, and we aren't still to this day making what they took away in '92. So they have to be fair.
As of the year 2000 here right now, we're making less than when I started 7 years ago in 1993. And I don't know anybody else whose power bill hasn't gone up, whose food for our kids. Everything's gone up, and we need this raise, we need this money.
And in 2000, Lloydminster geared up for the Saskatchewan provincial elections.
Incumbent for the Lloydminster riding, Violet Stanger, says she's ready and excited about the election campaign. Stanger says the NDP has shown it's fiscally responsible by balancing the budget, and she says they're now ready to focus on the important issues.
The jobs in the economy is very important to people. It's vital. We want people working, and that is one of the planks that we will be looking at very seriously. Jobs in the economy, health care, fiscal responsibility.
Stanger says she's committed to the riding and to the people in it. Tory Stephen Turnbull was nominated back in February. A teaching assistant who resides in Maidstone, Turnbull says he will be a full-time MLA, looking after the interests of the public, not government. He says his main focus is fairness.
In the past 3.5 years, the NDP government hasn't been fair in its dealings with the people of Saskatchewan. We've had numerous tax increases and utility rate increases. And what we're finding on the doorstep is exactly that people are tired of having to cut back themselves when the government continues to increase its spending and spending lavishly.
And that's all for this week in retrospect.
Retrospect this week is brought to you by Webb's Ford. Worth your while to drive the extra mile. Webb's Ford in Vermilion.
I'm joined with Angela Rooks-Trotzek, the CEO of the Lloydminster Interval Home Society. So Angela, first off, thanks a lot for joining me.
Hi, yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Let's talk about how the Interval Home Society has had to adjust to COVID-19. Obviously, we know what you guys do in the community, or you help provide the shelter for people that do need it. So what have you guys been doing differently because of COVID-19?
We've been doing a lot differently due to COVID-19, and it really depends on what part of the society that you're talking about, so that depends on what kind of changes. The changes depend on what kind of program or which program you're talking about. In our shelter in particular, it's been business as usual in the sense that we've remained open the entire time that the community and the provinces have been dealing with COVID. We just have had to increase, of course, our sanitization and cleaning practices and kind of adapt how we're working with clients and implementing all of those PPE requirements and those different things that we have, and social distancing even within the shelter, and trying to maintain, the 6 meters away from each other or wearing masks when needed. So we have had to adapt in our shelters. That's our emergency shelter and transitional housing, where we've made those specific changes. And most of our community-based programs have remained open as well. So our family violence outreach program has remained open. We've just moved to online delivery and doing care package delivery to our clients that are in that program. So individuals are still able to receive support, whether they're in our residential programming, our shelter programming, or our community-based programming as well. So, things like our public education, our community-based educational programs, as well as, like I said, family violence, have all remained open, just adjusted to more of an online delivery. The youth center, of course, is also under the Lloydminster Interval Home Society umbrella, and that has faced some pretty big adaptations. We did have to close the youth center itself, so we followed much of what the school divisions were doing. But the cool thing is that we've done there is we've moved to online programming and doing daily challenges with the youth. So our youth facilitators are online every day with our youth and connecting with them to make sure that they're still, doing well and have kind of that fun social connection as well. So they're doing things on Snapchat and Facebook and all sorts of things. So it's been really neat to see how our staff have adapted to make sure that we're still able to continue to support the clients that we work with.
How important was it for you as an organization to remain open for those people that needed help, and also are people still able to get help during this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly important that vulnerable individuals and people that are in need of support, whether it be, healing and responding to domestic violence and homelessness, or working with youth who are also vulnerable to, certain things and things that are specific to youth that are impacting them. It's vitally important to us, and that's really why we did adapt and try to make sure that we were still able to work with our clients and the people that need us, while still maintaining safety for our staff and clients and meeting the regulations that were put in place to keep people safe. So, it hasn't been without its challenges, but at the Interval Home, we tend to face challenges with creativity and solution-based ideas and wanting to figure out the best way to move forward.
And lastly here, what are some long-term plans that you have for the organization? I know you're talking about something off camera, and I guess just what do you have planned for once everything kind of slowly dies down with COVID-19?
When the COVID response slows down, we will get back to our, of course, regular programming and regular mode of operating, I guess, when we're working with clients. And the one thing we're looking forward to getting back to is kind of our event-based connection with the community. So things like our Chef's Got Your Back, which we've actually adapted as well to turn into dinner time food delivery service for our youth at the youth center, which is pretty cool. And also looking to celebrate our 40th anniversary in the fall. It's a big year for the Lloydminster Interval Home Society. 40 years we've been in this community, and we were working on some plans to celebrate that here in September, and we're hoping to still be able to roll out with that type of event where we can get together with people in person. So we're hoping to be able to do that in September again, and just kind of implement more of that in-person connecting with people where we can and where people are comfortable. But we also, I should mention, have a virtual walk coming up, and it's called Stronger for Her. And you can go anytime between June 4th and 8th. You can walk, you can run, you can bike, you could do anything, cartwheel, somersaults, whatever you want to do, and help to raise money for the Lloydminster Interval Home in a way that hopefully people find supportive, because we do know, or manageable, I should say, because we do know that the need is still there, and that the support needed for those folks is still there. So we thought it would be a neat way to get us all moving and outside and still be safe and still be able to help out a great cause as well.
Well, Angela, I really appreciate your time joining me today, sharing what the Interval Home Society continues to still do for our community despite these tough times. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Our Eric Bay and Evan Kenny chatted about the potential of playoff hockey coming back.
The NHL and NHLPA are currently agreeing on a new playoff format that would see 24 NHL teams in the playoffs rather than the original normal 16. Joining me today to talk about this is Eric Bay. Eric, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to talk sports, and a great way to kick off the week, I'd say.
Now, Eric, when you first heard about this new playoff format, what were your first reactions?
Honestly, I mean, I think it's pretty fair. When you look at it, obviously it's not something that we're used to seeing, but at times like these, we're not really used to seeing anything at all. So I think really for the most part, most of these teams really still did have a shot with about 10 games left to still make the playoffs. Some pretty close races there. So I think with the exception of Montreal, and even in my opinion, Chicago was on tough right there on the outside looking in. I think really it's the most fair for all teams involved, just when you look at the opportunities that they had there at the end of the year and a chance to get in. And this still gives them that chance to maybe make the playoffs and make some magic.
Yeah, I agree with you, especially when you bring up the points of the Montreal and Chicago. Montreal was statistically eliminated from playoffs when the season ended. So, yeah, they had no chance of getting in. Now with the extra couple teams per division getting in, they do have that shot. But the difference between Montreal and Boston is 29 points. How often do you see 29-point difference in the playoffs? Right, Eric? And I mean, how could this affect just the total lopsidedness of the playoffs?
I mean, yeah, we haven't really seen those big point differences since maybe the 70s or 80s when teams with losing records were still getting in. But I think for the most part, obviously you look, those top 4 teams in each conference will get the first round bye. So in the likelihood, we probably won't even see Montreal move forward. So I think really if you look at it, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins who have the most to complain about because they'll be playing against them. But again, that's the magic of the playoffs, right? And hockey is so competitive right now from top to bottom. Any team can win on any given night. So really, I don't see this as a huge disadvantage. And I mean, you look at this option compared to others, obviously you're putting in 12 teams per conference, but what's the other option, right? Are you going to give either 2 more teams a bye, let a couple more fight it out, or even cut out a few of those teams who had a chance to come in but were on the outside looking in, cut that down to even say 10 teams, and then you look at those teams are going to be not liking it either. So I think really when you look at it and the fact that the NHLPA did vote in favor, can't really complain. It's just great to see that hockey may be one step closer to coming back.
Now, Eric, we'll see those top 4 teams from each conference go head-to-head in a mini tournament there. Are you excited for this little tournament, I guess?
Not really. I mean, I'm more excited for the play-in roles, I would say. For this, for me, it's kind of, just giving them a way to play and get their legs under them. So every team has some games before we get down to nitty-gritty of it all. Because I think when you look at this, it's really going to be about guys not getting hurt. We see it in preseason, whether it's a tweak here or a tweak there. So it's going to be really, I think they'll be taking it pretty easy because they're confirmed no matter what to be in. So I think this is mostly just getting in shape, and seeding will be as it lies. But I know you're kind of looking forward to it, I believe you had mentioned, eh?
Yeah, I am. I'm excited to see, some of these top teams really duke it out. And right off the bat, if you get to see somebody like Boston play Tampa, that's an unbelievable game and a great matchup. And to be able to see that so early in the playoffs is something that I am very excited about. Now, you mentioned that it's almost like a normal preseason where players might not be going as hard as possible, or at least in those 4-team tournaments. But as well, when it comes to preseason, getting legs back under them, how do you think this will all work with different things like pregame skates, practices, getting back in shape and whatnot?
I think it's going to be tough because obviously the NHL has talked. They're looking at kind of those 2 locations, 12 teams each. So when you look at all the social distancing that's involved, everybody has to stay away from each other. I don't know how they're going to be able to, have one team come in for even, say, a pregame skate, take the other one off, and then have all that sanitation happen there as well, make sure everything's cleaned down before the next team comes in, then play the game, say, that night, and have to do that with 6 different games. We know 12 teams, 6 games in those cities. So I think that's really going to be tough for guys to get in shape. And I think really the way this playoffs is going to work, it's almost like the start of the season. Who can find their legs the quickest, earliest, and gets that hot start? Because you see some teams early on, they'll have a great 10-game stretch. Others, they'll be, 3-7-1 or something like that. And then you look at, midway point of the season, everything kind of averages out. So this will be interesting to see, who's hot and who's not. And that could really depend and determine these playoffs this year.
I'm interested to see how this whole thing goes and plays out. I mean, especially trying to find that ice time. St. Louis Blues captain Alex Pietrangelo said last week that there's no script for this. Everybody's going through it for the first time as well. So it's really sort of a trial and error type thing. One good note for Albertans is Jason Kenney is really pushing for the Edmonton Oilers to be one of those host cities. Now, obviously, there's lots of questions up in the air and potential problems there. Eric, what kind of problems could we be seeing?
I mean, right away, obviously, it's the sanitation, right? Trying to isolate people. And I do think, though, that Edmonton is a pretty good place for it. Obviously, they built the ice district up around Rogers Place there. And that's exactly what their plan was, right? To build that up, make sure that you had kind of that downtown core people could go to. So again, I think it's really just about isolating, making sure that those guys do stay comfortable and safe throughout all this. And again, that's really the entire issue around the world right now, is being able to make sure everybody is safe and doing as little as possible to transmit.
Well, Eric, we appreciate you taking this time, and hopefully we'll all be able to watch some NHL playoffs soon.
Hopefully that, and we can return to a little bit of normalcy. Thanks for having me again.